In this lesson, you're going to learn about angle measures and how to convert between radians and degrees. Before we do any conversions, let's take a look at the units only. If you're converting from radians to degrees, you're going to be starting with radians, and you want to multiply so that your radians will cancel and you'll be left with degrees. That means with your conversion factor, you need degrees in the numerator and radians in the denominator. After you multiply, radians will reduce with radians and you'll be left with degrees for your answer. If instead you're going from degrees to radians, you're starting with degrees, so you're multiplying by radians over degrees. That way, after you do your multiplication, degrees will cancel and you'll be left with radians for your final units. Now we just need a conversion factor. Let's think about a circle and how many degrees are in one complete revolution. In one revolution, there are 360 degrees total, or 2 pi radians. So we could use this, 360 degrees equals 2 pi radians, as our conversion factor, or maybe we could use smaller numbers. If we think about half of a circle, we know that there's 180 degrees in a half a circle, and there's also half of 2 pi radians, or just pi radians. So how about if we use this for our conversion factor? That way we'll be working with smaller numbers, and it should be easier and faster for us to do our conversions. So now let's try a conversion. Let's say we want to convert 3 pi radians to degrees. So we've got 3 pi radians times, and we're going to use 180 degrees over pi radians for our conversion factor. We've already said that our radians will cancel and we'll be left with degrees. So just looking at the numbers, we've got 3 pi times 180 divided by pi. Our pi's are going to cancel also, and that'll leave us with 3 times 180 degrees, or 540 degrees. So 3 pi radians is equivalent to 540 degrees. Now let's try another. Let's say we're going from 150 degrees to radians. We've got 150 degrees times pi radians over 180 degrees. So our conversion factor has got radians on top and degrees on bottom here. We already said that degrees cancel and we're left with radians for our units, so let's just look at the numbers down here below. And that'll give 150 times pi over 180, and once the 150 and the 180 are reduced, that'll give 5/6 pi radians. So 5/6 pi radians, or 5 pi over 6 radians, is the same as 150 degrees. Now let's go ahead and practice a couple of more conversions and make sure this all makes sense. Let's first convert degrees to radians. So we have 250 degrees we want to convert to radians. Since we want our answer in radians, we know we want radians on the top of our conversion factor. So it'll be 250 degrees times pi radians over 180 degrees. After the 250 and the 180 reduce, we're going to be left with 25 pi over 18 radians. Now let's take a look at the second one. We're going from radians to degrees. We're going to convert 2 pi over 3 radians to degrees, so we know that we want our conversion factor to have degrees on top, so that we end up with degrees in our final answer. So we'll take 2 pi over 3 radians and multiply that by 180 degrees over pi radians. The pi's will reduce to 1, and 2 times 180 divided by 3 gives us 120 degrees. Now you know a bit more about angle measures and converting between radians and degrees. See you next time!